I don't know if I guess I should be honored John went before me, or I don't know if they were the opening act, I guess. The former chairman of AT&T.
Yeah, it's always great to hear from John. All right, so CVS Health has been on a transformation journey. And to talk about that, we have here with us Sri Narasimhan, who is the VP of Enterprise Customer Experience and Insights. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, excited to be here. Thank you.
If we rewind the time back to when you were thinking about the transformation, what was that moment? What was the spark that led you to decide to embark on a transformation journey?
Yeah, I think it's so the analogy I give when I think about AI sometimes is, I'm not very handy. I'm like terrible at doing things around the house, but I love going to Home Depot and buying things. So, I go with my wife and, I'll just start buying all the cool stuff I see. We get to the end and the checkout and the guy goes, well, what's your project? And I go, project? I don't know. Financial ruin, I guess. But that's where I think sometimes how AI is. I think people just see all the cool stuff and they're like, hey, let's just get as many things in, pilot and test as much stuff. And that's where, I know everyone keeps quoting this 95% number. I think that's where it comes from. We have a strategy. So our strategy is to be the most trusted company in healthcare at CVS Health. So we focus on that strategy and then think about the tools necessary to achieve that goal. So for us, AI played a key role there, right? It's more about how these tools, these capabilities are going to help us achieve our goal and our North Star, less about AI for AI's sake. And I think that's probably the most important thing to keep in mind, because with the proliferation of tools and capabilities out there, and there's so many cool things, you get caught up in it sometimes, and because we're all human, we want to be cool, we want to be innovative, we want to do all that stuff. You really have to think about, does it fit into your core strategy? So for us, I heard someone ask about customer experience backstage, but that's our focus. We want to deliver great member, customer, client experiences, and AI is a key tool to do that.
And in large enterprises such as yours, there are usually competing priorities, right? How did you kind of get that alignment internally across your stakeholders to say, hey, this is what we need to embark on to improve CX? What was your approach?
Yeah, I mean, and I hear that seems to be a common theme this week too, is this kind of balance between ROI and experience. And I've heard a couple of people say some interesting things related to that. I think we are lucky that from the C-suite down at our company, there's a strong belief that if we deliver great experiences, we will see better financial outcomes and all those things will flow out of it. So I do think that there is a heightened focus on the experience. And I think a lot of that's because if you look at the industries we play in, there's a ton of regulatory scrutiny and things like that. So, the tolerance of the general public and all these stakeholders we have has gone down tremendously in terms of how we treat our members. So we need to do the best job we can to serve those people and help them stay healthier, and achieve positive health outcomes. That said, I think we picked use cases initially to get started that we knew would deliver ROI. And I think one of the examples we did with Cresta was call summarization. We knew it would take away after-call work. We knew we could quickly show value, quick wins, and then we could build on that. It would build a core data set for us that we could then leverage to do all the more interesting things that we want to do that drive experience, that drive better patient outcomes. So, I mean, a little bit long-winded, but I'd say that we were lucky in that we have this alignment from the top down, but, you still had to find the quick win if you can.
That's great. And talking about quick wins, usually it's a fine balance that you need to strike between your long-term vision and strategy, but also show wins to keep that momentum and the wind behind, your quest there. So how did you think about the balance? And you did talk about summarization as the first use case, but what else did you have to do to kind of strike that balance between near-term wins versus your long-term vision?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way I've always thought about it is you want to kind of build, the near-term wins have to be building on each other to get you to some long-term goal. So for us, just thinking about summarization, that created a really core piece of information and data on our calls to understand things like sentiment, how our agents were performing, what are some of the reasons that our calls are avoidable, all those things that we wanted to do. while also giving us this quick win where we didn't have to have all of our CSRs frantically typing notes after calls. That actually also had, likely these people have to move to the next call. We put a lot on our CSRs. I'm sure everyone in this room does too. So, it also freed up some mind space for them to focus on their next call. So that was, for us, it was a build. So it was like, hey, look, this is a quick win on the way. We know that longer term, if we build this capability, we're going to have this data set that's going to really drive the bigger picture outcome on helping us avoid calls, helping us improve agent performance, all that stuff. I think that was the way we kind of thought through it when we worked with our call center partners.
Yeah, and often what we see is great ideas, great concepts and experiences kind of die because of a lack of adoption, right? So when it comes to change management and how do you ensure that the ecosystem adopts it, how did you think about, or how did you kind of get a program in place to get the trust with the users, right? Without that, no matter how many features that you roll out there, it's probably going to be a waste. So what was your kind of strategy or philosophy around change management and getting the trust?
Yeah, I think like everyone has an existential crisis with AI. Like, you're like, this thing is coming to take my job. This thing's coming to eliminate. Our view as a company has always been, and I think someone said this, like human plus AI is where we want to be, and human plus AI is better than human without AI. So, I think that was one, like the messaging from the top, from my leader, Talak Mandati, has always been AI. What he says is AI takes the stupid out of work. So it's more of a capability about freeing up the productivity and the mind space for our teams to deliver better experiences, to be more present for our customers. I think our call center teams did a great job of reinforcing that message to the frontline employees and, showing them like, hey, look, this tool is going to speed up your time. One thing about our frontline employees, they have a tremendous why. Like they all want to help patients, and I'm always marveling at it. They want to be there. They want to impact people's healthcare. That's why they signed up to join CVS Health, Aetna, all these businesses. So when you show them that, hey, this capability is going to make it easier for you to deliver a better outcome for the person you're on the phone with, a better health outcome for their kids, the adoption flows from that. But there certainly is like, a little bit of apprehension. I think there still is that we're trying to overcome where, people are a little worried and nervous about these capabilities. And I think you have to acknowledge that and then move forward with saying, here's all the ways this is going to help you and make you more effective. And I think it's really going to take time and trust to show like, hey, no, we really are focusing on human plus AI here. And these capabilities aren't about replacing, they're about enhancing. That's just going to take time.
Now, what have some of the results been after you deploy summarization, and what is like the feedback from the field on that?
Well, I think on summarization, there was almost immediate return in terms of after-call work time and reductions in after-call work time. I think some of the other AI capabilities more broadly across the company, we've seen increasing adoption, and I think it's a real testament to our teams that run in operations. I have my operations partner from Aetna here actually, but they really leaned in. And it showed it was really impressive how our CSRs embraced the change. And again, when you start seeing results and you start seeing it's going to make you more effective, and you're seeing your peers doing it, then there becomes a positive momentum around it. I know we're going to probably talk about it, but one of the biggest things that unlocks for us with Cresta has been the ability to score the sentiment on every single call. One of the responsibilities I have is around our consumer experience and understanding the sentiment. So traditionally, that's via surveys, right? Where you send a call survey, you get probably like a 5% response rate. You can't get that at the agent level. You don't understand all the detail that you want to understand. But the big success that I'm excited about from my seat is now we've scored 100% of our calls. So now at an agent level, we understand performance, not just from their perspective, but from the consumer's perspective. It also has given us really enhanced understanding on avoidable calls that we have trouble resolving, ability to close the loop. Now we are opening it up to a wider range of experiences. So that's just starting. Mm-hmm. That to me is going to be that's where I'm very excited, because I think having that knowledge and that understanding of all those calls is so critical.
Yeah.
And I just would add one more thing, like, you know, this age of personalization in healthcare, it's such a big deal, and everyone wants personalized healthcare. Is there anything more impersonal than you've got someone on hold, you transferred them twice, and then you send them an email being like, hey, how was that? You know, like, you know, like, so we should understand the experience without having to ask. And that's the big push we're making internally, because it also helps us be more proactive. People are, all of these experiences that we deliver are often so reactive. We're always on our back foot. We're waiting for someone to tell us something went wrong. The capability here is going to allow us to be proactive, solve the issue without even telling them. We don't even need to tell them. Just we know, oh, hey, that one's solvable. Let's just fix it. I think that's going to be a big unlock when we get going here over the next. We just started that journey.
Yeah. I mean, the evolution from on your feedback process, right, from survey-led to AI-led, that's a huge change. And you actually been one of the early adopters of the tech, and you just talked about the benefits. So what did you have to do in order to move from, like, traditionally, we've done surveys, most customers have done surveys forever, right now. So for that to go from a feedback-based to predictive AI-powered CSAT, what did you have to do? Did you have to go through like did you have to convince folks to use that? And what did you have to do in terms of gaining alignment?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of funny. It's people with surveys. There's been this kind of trend where I think someone telling you that they're unhappy for some reason doesn't resonate as much as if you could like show someone a data point. So I literally like, hey, this customer is really unhappy. They literally wrote it down. Like, here's where it is. And you know, the business partners will be like, are you sure? You know, and it's like, so one of the big unlocks here is like it now kind of gets us out of that conversation, right? Because now it's like, hey, look, this is the data. We're mining the transcript. This is how we're seeing it. We're mining the calls. Like, it gives us that credibility using operational data and scale, right? That's the other, you know, one thing, if you work in this kind of field, you understand statistically, after a certain point, your margin of error goes to zero, and there's a diminishing marginal return from getting more feedback. Try to explain that to someone running an operation. They're like, no, I need all 1 million calls scored, right? So you get out of these kind of conversations that you're traditionally in with these folks when you work in CX. The other thing I think for us was really, we have the information. Like it really goes down to like, we don't need to ask, we know. And we know what's wrong, and all the feedback is giving us is basically just reflecting. It's like a mirror. It's just reflecting our business. So if we have all that data and all that information, we need to leverage it more effectively. So I think that was the big push in the start.
Yep.
It also, I talked about it briefly, but like making us more proactive, so we don't have to wait for the customer to tell us something is wrong. We'll just see it in our data and fix it. All that said, I still think, like, even in this age of AI, we'll still talk to our customers, right? I still think you have to. I just think it changes the way we use those programs. Now they'll become more about data hydration, feeding models, understanding, like, helping us make Cresta's model more effective as we evolve. And then that'll become the main tool we use, because I think it's ultimately going to put us in a position where the insights are faster, they're scaled, and all those things are just going to be a big unlock.
And since you've moved to the new way of calculating or tracking CSAT, how has it changed the way you make decisions, or has it enabled you to do things a little differently than what you used to do before?
Yeah, like, I'll give you an example. We made a recent change in our Caremark business to one of our formularies, a pretty public change, that caused some consumer angst. So traditionally, what we would do, we would wait. You get the survey volume. You look at the surveys. You're like, okay, there's a lot of comments about this. It's usually a couple of weeks, and then you go try to do something with it. With this new capability, we saw it right away. We're like, hey, look, this is popping. This particular medication is popping. The volume's going up. We can see the sentiment's declining. What's going on? And we were able to get ahead of it right away, right? And start getting out, being more proactive with communication, explaining alternatives to customers, talking to our CSRs and our supervisors. So the time to insight is so accelerated. I think that to me will be a big unlock. We also have, for us, the Super Bowl is what's called welcome season. We're really excited to have this capability entering welcome season because we'll be able to talk to those supervisors on a daily basis to say, hey, these are how your CSRs are performing. Here's where we're having challenges. They're struggling on these types of calls from the consumer's lens, because that's really what matters, right? Because that's the other thing that this pivots the conversation from. It goes from, okay, an AQM conversation or a quality management conversation where you're like, did you check the box on all these things you're doing? To a customer-led conversation. The customers are telling us they're not happy with the way these calls are going. What can we do differently? And I think that'll be, for us, a major win when we launch it. So time to insight, and I think also just the ability to proactive monitor and engage with our frontline.
These large transformations are never easy, right? What were some of the biggest execution challenges that you faced, and if you can talk about how did you overcome them?
I don't know. Well, did we overcome them? I don't know. We're still working through them, I think. But there's a few that I think continue. That I think getting alignment from a leadership perspective. My role is an enterprise role, so I sit across all of our lines of business. I don't know how many folks in the audience know this, but we're CVS Retail, we're Aetna, we're Caremark, we have a healthcare delivery business. All of these businesses have their own P&Ls, their own operations, and trying to coordinate across to build consensus is the biggest challenge I think we have as an enterprise, because you have a lot of smart people working in all these businesses, and all of their challenges are unique, and they want to approach it with their different capabilities and their different tools. So I think getting alignment there is always a challenge, because we want to start being more consistent on the way we approach our tooling and our experiences. That's one we continue to go through. I think the other one, for us here was really around, and I hate to circle back to this, but it, again, was, okay, how are we going to sequence quick wins with longer term gains when we have these big targets put on us? So I think getting alignment from leadership around that was also really critical. And being able to show the quick wins with Cresta on summarization was really key, because then you get the buy-in. You start saying, okay, hey, this is going to work. This is showing value. Let's see what else they can do. And then you can start pushing the boundaries. So I'd say one of the challenges we continue to I wouldn't say struggle, but we still continue to work through is this kind of enterprise alignment across these large businesses we have. But the one I think we were successful at is staging the success in a way that got business buy-in pretty quickly.
Got it. How do you, on the topic of quick wins, how do you recognize, or was there a point where you recognize, hey, our investments are the right ones, and we are seeing the results that we want? So was there a moment, was it like an aha moment that you saw?
Well, it's a really interesting question, because I was just talking to my leader about this, but we were, one of the things we want to avoid as a company, I think, at least from his perspective, is piloting and testing everything. What you want to do is find a partner that you can work with and that you can build a relationship with and that will co-develop and create with you. I realize I'm at a Cresta conference. I don't want to make this a Cresta commercial, but that's where we leaned in with you guys. And I think the partnership we had with your team to actually, and I'll just use the scoring of the calls as an example, the way you were willing to come to the table, work with us, partner with us, test and learn with us, and co-develop was really meaningful, and made, and we were like, hey, let's keep working with these guys. Because again, there's so many tools out there, and they keep coming more and more and more. Like, if you just endlessly are piloting things, you're just not going to advance. So finding a partner that you want to work with and build with, I think, is a real key with all this AI stuff. And I think that's kind of where we're going, is how do we pick a handful of these people or these partners and build together, versus trying to, if you just keep chasing the next capability, you're the dog chasing its tail.
Got it. I mean, we have in the audience leaders that are at different stages of their journey. What would be your one advice to them on how do you plan, and execute on a transformation program?
Well, I would love for them to give me advice. Maybe we can go around the room and get some advice. But yeah, no, I think there's a couple of key learnings for us. One, I think, was don't get caught up in all the capabilities out there, because you'll just drive yourself insane because you'll see it all. and you'll be like, I want that. You'll be me in a Home Depot. I think what you want to do is you want to do your best due diligence, and I think pick the partners that you think are going to be most effective and are going to develop and be there in the end, and lean in with them. And I think Cresta is clearly one of those partners for us. I think the second thing is the staging of the wins, because as much as I think Donovan said this, as much as you want to say like, hey, we have this big vision, this big North Star that we're driving towards, people will at the top will all agree to that. But I think when you start working through the teams, everyone's got a P&L, everyone's got a target. So if you can stage the wins that move you in a way where you're moving towards that North Star effectively, I think that's really important. And I think the third one is just make sure you're aligning everything to your strategy. I think that's a couple of times, the conversations I've had with some of our partners, we've been like, is this really part of the strategy? Is this really going to advance us? Or are we just doing this because this is cool? And I think that's an important question to ask yourself is, hey, don't ever lose sight of that North Star. Are these things additive? Are they going to build to what you want? Are they going to build to driving better experience or materially changing costs or any of those things that you're focused on? Because again, I think this world with AI, there's just so many shiny things. So being able to make sure like, hey, we're still aligned, we're still chasing the right thing, we're still doing the right thing, we're still pointing in the right direction is really important. And then I'll end with it's really helpful if you can have the C-suite and the CEO and all these folks in your corner when they're talking about this, and changing the conversation to be more about how are these capabilities going to deliver better experiences, better outcomes for our patients, because that's what we really care about, versus it being a strictly like, hey, we're trying to eliminate all this cost, I think is an important shift. And if you're lucky enough to have a CEO like ours, I think it's really important and effective in getting things done.
Incredible insights, Sri. Thank you for sharing, and we are all pumped to continue to be part of your transformation journey. With that, I think we have a few minutes.
And I'm better at this than I am kicking field goals. I don't know if anyone saw me kick a field goal yesterday.
I was going to say the biggest lesson that was learned yesterday is be nice to kickers, NFL kickers, when they miss the field goals. Yeah. We have some time for questions from the audience. I think we need a mic here.
Thank you. Curious, so after the call summarization, what will be your next step? Do you have a certain journey mapped out? Just curious what the next steps are.
So there's a couple things we're focused on. I'd say with our next step with Cresta is we've gone to this scoring model. So we scored all of our calls both on customer experience and the agent quality. So I think that's where we view that as a pretty big unlock, like I was saying, because I think where our ability to then coach up our teams, identify, there's a lot of calls we get, for instance, like just as examples, like status. And a lot of that is someone gets a status online and doesn't trust it and calls us. And being able to understand what happens on those calls and why they don't trust us, like what are the things that we can do to enhance trust, I think that would be a big win for us. The other ones are like, there's things that are super straightforward that people aren't doing digitally. And like, changing mailing addresses, stuff like that. So being able to more deeply, because we've always known that, but we haven't understood what's happening on those calls and understanding the psyche of a customer that's really causing them to do that. Like, why aren't you using the self-service option? So this will give us, I think, heightened insights around that and help us in terms of communication and coaching and how do we get to the customers to not do some of these more basic things that they can do online. It's frankly, the outcomes will be better for them if they do it themselves. So that's one big one. I think that scoring on the calls is big. The other one that we're really focused on is, if you're at Aetna as an example, our CSRs, these are incredible employees, have to look through thousands of documents to get to the information they need to give someone who's on the phone. And so you're on these calls, you have anxiety, guys. I listen to these calls. Listening to these people have to stay calm while the person on the other line is furious at them. And it's not them, they're furious at the company. And they are looking for the information. I don't know how they do it. I would break down. I would probably just hang up the phone, to be honest with you. But they are incredible at it. And these tools that we have on AI are going through our documents, and we've taken the effort to. There's a lot of effort here around data management. I should have said that's another obstacle. Like the data management and the structure of these files that we have to feed the AI is really challenging for us. But that's another one. So it's like real-time agent assist kind of stuff. Like we're able to help our CSRs be more effective. I think those are two of the bigger ones. But I think that we're probably most close to executing.
Great stuff. So in conversations yesterday, understood about Welcome Week. I'm in Fleet, so learned a bit about your business. And this welcome season, you're gonna ramp up staffing. You already have 40,000 agents across the business. Are you envisioning? So two questions. Right? Are you envisioning a future where you staff up with virtual agents? Right. So obviously, not threatening people's job is a key thing today. So not talking about workforce reduction, but in the future, workforce addition with virtual agents. So that's the first question about the future you envision. The second is more an executive concern. Different lines of business with their own interests are being courted by different suitors in the virtual agent space. So someone comes and says, oh, we have this person or this company that's wanting to build virtual agents for us, and you are already aware of Cresta. In your experience, do you think, oh, I need to shoot that down and let that ride? Like, how do you manage that?
The second one's a really great question, because it is tough when you work across this broad enterprise and everyone's got the capability they want to bring to the table. I think we haven't been playing the shut it down game yet, because I think there is also, it's just a tough one to do, because again, a lot of these guys they have their own P&Ls and they have their own things that they're marching towards. What we've shaped that as is let's learn. So one of the things I lead is with Will, who's here in the audience, is the Call Center Innovation Lab, where we bring the call centers together and we say, okay, Caremark's using Cresta. This is the stuff that they're getting out of that and how they're learning. One of our other businesses is using someone else. What are they learning? And it's almost like creating a healthy internal competition to it. And once you make that transparent, then the leaders are going to make their own decisions. But if you feel like there's one capability that's exceeding the other, they're not going to make that choice. They're going to come together. So part of it was just breaking down the lack of transparency, because what was happening before is like you had all these people kind of working on silos, not talking to each other. So you didn't even know that there was some other capability. Because half the time when people are spinning up some new capability, they didn't even know that there was one that already existed that they could just tag onto. So that's the way we've been approaching it. So we haven't been shutting things down. We've been more, for lack of a better word, facilitating bake-offs and sharing information. I don't know. As it evolves, I do think you don't want 25 different companies in here doing the same thing, which could happen for us because we're just so big. So I think that's where we'll go. On the first question, which is a great one, healthcare is so deeply personal and so deeply rooted in trust. I think we're at the start of a journey here where we're exploring these capabilities. I think the other thing that we're looking at too is like people really are in healthcare are really looking at concierge models and like more heightened levels of service and engagement. So we're going to explore those things, of course. But I think if this is my perspective, we'll probably have to look at it by reason. Because there's certain calls that I think you're going to have a human engaging. It's just, it's too emotional. It's too important. And these people are just going to lack trust. And I think until the capabilities advance, it's probably going to be a little few of these that are human. I think that there's probably other ones, though, that are just really straightforward. Status checks, like, real basic information on your plan. That is where I think we'll probably start talking about these things. But I think we're exploring those capabilities now and seeing where this evolves because, you have to. I think everyone in this room has to because it's the capabilities there. The other one I think that I often think about as a potential use case for us is we do a lot of post-acute care calls, so follow-up calls. And the technology is really advancing there too. And those are like relatively like checklist-oriented calls. It'll be interesting. I think that the trust aspect of healthcare is a little unique. And particularly we serve a lot of seniors and Medicare recipients and Medicare MA folks. Like it's going to be, that's where it'll be interesting to see how things evolve here. And I know I'm going long on this question. One thing that I've been fascinated by, just related to that, is how much information, like all of our research indicates how much information people get from like ChatGPT, Reddit, versus their primary care provider. And they're willing to trust. So, I say all that, that's to kind of undercut my answer. I say all that, but this is evolving so quickly. And if people start trusting AI more and believing in AI more, then yeah, we'll definitely have to see a path to go that way.
That's all the time we have, Sri. Thank
you.
you so much
Thank you,
for your
guys.
time. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Sri.
Thank you.